What's good, Wizards fans? It's your host, the Real Ed Oliver and Brandon Scott, and today we have a trade deadline show for sure. So many teams interested in Kuzma, so many teams interested in Gafford and Tyus Jones. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. It's your host, the Real Ed Oliver and Brandon Scott, and there's been so many trade reports coming out today, just really the last couple days. It's almost the trade deadline, February 8th. Today is the 22nd. You'll be listening to this on the 23rd, most likely. So it's just getting hot, man. It's heating up. And you can kind of see some of it is kind of, I feel like some of it is affecting Kuzma a little bit. People were talking about that. Yeah. Sorry about the comments, guys. We're not going to get to the comments today from last night. We will most likely get to the comments tomorrow, but today we're just going to really focus on some of the trade reports and then come up with a couple of mock trades here and there. I know everybody's very opinionated on mock trades, so if you don't like a mock trade, we can all respectfully disagree on the trade, guys. We don't have to go crazy at each other and whatnot. We go through this every single trade cycle. Everybody has a mock trade and everybody has their own opinion. So let's just get that out the way. But to get started, so this is the report from Amico Hoops, and then Mark Stein also had a report about Kyle Kuzma, the teams that are reportedly interested. I think everybody knows the Dallas Mavericks. That's probably the most popular trade report right now. The other teams are the Memphis Grizzlies, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Golden State Warriors. And then also there was the interesting report where the Wizards are looking for more compensation or higher draft picks. This is the report from Mark Stein. He said the implication is that the Wizards will be seeking higher quality picks than what the Toronto Raptors received from Indiana in the Pascal Siakam trade. 2 of the 3 future first rounders sent to the Raptors by Indiana are from the oft-maligned 2024 draft this June. So apparently Will Dawkins and crew, they don't really want any draft picks from this draft class. They rather get some later picks, and they may possibly want higher picks than what the Raptors got for Pascal Siakam. So a lot to unpack here, but what are your thoughts from the reports that you've heard so far on for Kyle Kuzma?
Oh, very intriguing reports, man, because we were going to be able to get some good value back for not only Kyle Kuzma, but for a majority of these vets, man. They officially came out and said, look, it is going to be a fire sale. Bilal is the only guy right now who is untradeable. Everybody is a tradable asset right now. So, get back to Kyle Kuzma, a lot of options, man. I guess the biggest thing, as far as fit, because right now the team, this front office wants draft capital or young players back or inspiring deals, and maybe they're willing to take on bad contracts, but for picks. So looking at their list of teams, we were kind of talking about before, man. Dallas, I know there's a lot of buzz with Dallas right now, but I don't see too much on Dallas that I really want in return, man. Because are they willing to give us Josh Green? Then maybe we'll talk. But I'd see them being maybe hesitant to do that. Derek Lively, I think, is out of bounds for us. So I don't see outside of that. I don't want to see 2 years of. Well, I guess if you pick up Tim Hardaway Jr. next year, you'll be kind of the same situation as Marvin Bagley. He'll be a free agent after next year. So maybe you can pick up a Tim Hardaway Jr. because because I'm on Trade Machine right now. So Kyle Kuzma makes 25.5. So looking at a potential deal with Dallas, man, and I'm gonna pull up Dallas real quick. It's not. Tim Hardaway Jr. makes 17, so you still got to add another player. And so who would that be? That's what I'm saying. Are they willing to part with some of the young guys? Me personally, Josh Green would be a guy I would want. Derek Lively is a guy I want, but I ain't gonna get. So looking at the remaining teams. Memphis, there could be a fit. The Spurs, I don't see it happen, man. They're in the same boat as we are. They're trying to get draft capital and young players back in return too. And like I said, we were talking about would they be willing to give up Keldon Johnson, which is a guy that we both like. It really goes off of who they're willing to give us back in return. as far as Dallas and San Antonio. I don't see San Antonio. Now, Golden State, I will say this, man. I think that, obviously their asking price is a little high, but they're being aggressive, and that's where you want to be. But if I'm looking at Golden State, that would be the suitor I'm going after. I'm asking, the first name out of my mouth is Jonathan Kuminga. And that would be the conversation starter for me. If we're able to get a young player in Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody, we'll see. We're cooking. Now, obviously, it goes off future fit. Where do they play Bilal? To me, Kuminga is the best fit. He can play the 4. He can play the 3. Defensive minded, very athletic. Fits the timeline, very young. So, yeah, out of all of them, I'm leaning towards Golden State. I would love, the young guys. Now, but that's another dynamic guy to look at, too. Their core of Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson are coming to an end. So are they willing to give up young players or picks? Because, look, sooner or later, they're going to have to rebuild. So, there's a lot of intrigue in this, but it goes off the fit. And I don't see a clear-cut fit right now. You know what I mean? So, but if I'm willing to bet on it, if we're really aiming for the fences, I'm talking to Golden State. And I'm trying to pry one of them young guys, man, because they're defensive-minded guys who can stretch the floor. And in the case of Kuminga, he is athletic and he can be a star in his league. So that's why I'm here.
Definitely, yeah. The Mavericks, like you said, they don't really have a lot of assets, honestly. You look at some of their draft picks now, they have a first rounder in 2026, 2025. They don't have one in 2024 this year. They have one in 2028. So they do have a couple of first round picks coming up. They have an unprotected. Yeah, they basically own the majority of their picks coming up this year too. Not a lot of protections coming up, which is a good thing. But if you look at the player standpoint, yeah, you're not going to get much in return. Tim Hardaway Jr. is probably most likely the guy that you would get back.
Yeah.
You look at his contract. It's not a terrible contract. It's something you can work with, but it's not like you're banging on the table to get Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah.
Jaden Hardy, he's a young prospect. Maybe you could get him in a deal for Kyle Kuzma and maybe attach somebody else from the Wizards. And they are looking for those 2 firsts. So maybe I don't think they'll get 2 firsts. I think they'll get at least 1 for Kyle Kuzma. So like a first and Tim Hardaway and another player. Look at it. They got Derek Jones Jr. They got Grant Williams. So yeah, there's nobody that you're really looking at in return on that roster, really, except for maybe like Jaden Hardy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Tim Hardaway would make sense just making the money work. But other than that, their roster really is not – it's not a deep roster. It's Luka, Kyrie, and, a bunch of role guys, guys that can – shooters and a couple athletes here and there. But the Mavericks have never really had a great roster around Luka. They've had an okay roster here and there, but they've never had, like, a bunch of guys that you're really looking for. So, that's what you get from the Mavericks. But, yeah, out of the teams that reportedly are interested, yeah, the Warriors probably do have the best young talent that possibly could be traded. Jonathan Kuminga clearly is not happy. He already talked about his minutes and, him being on the bench. He spoke out about Steve Kerr and his minutes that he's been getting. So Kuminga is definitely an attractive piece. Moses Moody as well. He doesn't get a lot of minutes either. So those are 2 guys. Maybe you get a first-round pick in those guys, And we've already done a deal with the Warriors before. So,
yeah,
maybe we make something work again. Grizzlies, not too sure. Their roster is, they have a good roster, but it's just a little clunky right now with Ja being out and whatnot. But looking at their roster, just looking at some of the guys that could be on the block. There's one guy named Vince Williams who's been playing really well. I don't know how available he is, but I would take a look at him. Jake LaRavia, they just drafted him, so I'm not sure they would give him up. And Gigi Jackson's a rookie. He's been playing pretty well. So their second-round pick. I'm not sure if they're going to give him up either. But they got Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, and, of course, Desmond Bane is off the table. Jaren Jackson off the table, guys like that. So, yeah, Will Dawkins definitely has his work cut out for him as far as getting some value back. But the most important thing really is not the player. It's the picks and the assets. That's what they're really focused on, is getting those picks back for Kyle Kuzma, because this is a good opportunity. Honestly, it's to the point where Kyle Kuzma, he hasn't been playing well as of late, where it's like to the point where we might have to put him on ice until the trade deadline, because the more he's playing, unfortunately, right now, he's kind of, I'm not going to say he's diminishing his value, but he kind of looks like, the rumors are, or the reports are heating up, and he knows that, his days are numbered in DC. That's kind of been the way that he's been playing a little bit as of late. But, the Grizzlies, Spurs, I don't see anybody. I do like Devin Vassell. I do like Keldon Johnson. I do like those guys. But how realistic is it that we're going to get that young talent back for Kyle Kuzma? I don't think it's that much likely. So, yeah, I do think if he does go somewhere, I do think it's going to be either the Mavericks or the Warriors, because the Warriors are clearly trying to win now. The Mavericks are clearly trying to win now. So those are the two destinations where I could see something like that happening, and we get a future first for Kyle Kuzma. They have to capitalize on Kuzma. This is the reason why they brought him back. He knows that too. He's on a favorable deal, a good contract. And, we didn't get a first for Bill. Kind of got a first for Jordan Poole. It's a far out first, 2030, and it's a protected pick. So I think you definitely can get a solid first for Kyle Kuzma. It may not be better than what they got for Pascal Siakam, the Toronto Raptors, but you got to shoot high and aim high and try to get the best value you can for Kyle Kuzma. He's had a solid season so far until the last couple of games. I thought he has played pretty well this season. Yeah. So I do think they can get some good value for him back.
Oh, they could definitely get some value from back, man. But that thing, I know they're looking for draft capital and young players, but $25 million a year, you still got to make the money match. And that's the biggest thing. Now, I was looking at San Antonio, man. They may not be that bad of an option if they're trying to offload some of these expirings. I think the thing is just fit, I don't see where he fits at his age with a rebuilding team, because they're in the same boat as we are. They're aiming for a top 5 pick. I just, looking at they could offload. I know he's got $12 million. Devontae Graham. He's kind of the same contract as Marvin Bagley. Let's see. Zach Collins, expiring deals. Cedi Osman, expiring deals. So, Doug McDermott, expiring deals. So we could probably pick on some expiring deals in the pick. So they definitely, he's definitely got a job ahead of him, man, because, and I would say this, can we tend to kind of overvalue our guys a little bit? Like I said, you definitely aim high and definitely swing for the fences, but is very, I don't think they're going to get more than one first round pick from Kyle Kuzma, man. And I think the biggest factor is hurting Kyle Kuzma's defense. If you look at a player like Pascal Siakam, man, he can stretch the floor, but he defensively that's the biggest asset he's bringing, his defense. When he got to Toronto, man, he's an offensive player first, coming from New Mexico State, and then he developed that offensive game. So Kyle Kuzma, I think we're a little kind of overvaluing him a little bit. A couple second round picks, man, is a little high. I think we're gonna get one, maybe young player or expiring deal, but they got to be crafty, because, like you said, you got to get the money. The money has to work. And while it's not the worst contract ever, it's definitely a contract where you got to get a couple of contracts to match up to the $25 million. And we do have trade exceptions, because currently we do have Bradley Beal $5 million, Monte Morris $10 million, Chris Paul 3.3, and KP $12 million. So we have trade exceptions. So I'm looking forward to it, man, because we definitely have the capabilities to make a move. It's just it has to fit, and for us long term, it has to fit for us. So.
Yeah, and the Kings are another team. Mark Stein in his article, he said the Kings are another Western Conference contender, like Dallas, known to be Kuzma fans. The Wizards, though, are under no real pressure to trade Kuzma in this transaction window. Not with Kuzma in year one of a 4-year, $90 million contract that pays out $25 million a season, but descends all the way down to $19.4 million in year 4. Like you brought up, the trade exceptions, those are good too, just for absorbing some, bad, as people say, bad contracts, or just some contracts and taking on picks. Yeah. They did that a lot with the Thunder, where they took on players and took on picks. They took on players with big contracts and just, took the picks, because that's what they really wanted, was the picks. So Will Dawkins looks like he's probably going to do the same thing again. But yeah, they may not trade him this year, because they're not forced to, because they have, after this year, it's a 4-year deal. So they have 3 more seasons, or really 2.5 more seasons to trade him. They don't have to trade him right now, even though I think, honestly, it's in their best interest to just move on, because it looks like he's kind of checked out, honestly. I'm a big Kuzma fan, but it just looks like he's kind of checked out. But, yeah, we're going to get into some more talk, and then we're gonna talk about Gafford as well, and some of the teams that are interested in him and his trade value. But before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Playoffs were lit the other day. The NFL regular season has wrapped up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. the best way to find popular parlays and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so let's move on to our guy Gaff. This is from Evan Sittery and Matt Moore. He is an NBA writer for Action Network HQ. So I just want to, everybody who comes out with these reports, I want to read, what their credentials are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to give everybody context where we're getting these reports from, that we're not just getting them from some fake NBA page and all this other stuff. Because there's a lot of those out there. There's a lot of those out there. So reportedly, he says the Knicks, Mavericks, and Rockets are expressing trade interest in Daniel Gafford. The Mavericks, once again, are a popular. That's probably the most popular, most known team that's interested in Gafford. But what do you see out of those three teams? What do you think the Wizards could get back? And what do you see as far as Gafford's trade value?
You mentioned Mavericks. It's kind of the same boat as Kuzma, man. Draft picks, like you said, they have a few draft picks that could be intriguing. So that could be a starting point. But he's making $12 million, so it's not hard to match the contract. But I don't see too many players on Dallas, man, that I'd see them realistically being willing to give up that I would want. Like you said, Tim Hardaway Jr., his contract's not bad. And like I said, it's kind of like Bagley, where after next year, it's off the book. So it's not really a long-term commitment. But looking at Houston and New York, easy. I think that obviously he's going to be brought into New York to replace Mitchell Robinson because he's out for the year or he's out for the foreseeable future. And Hartenstein has been playing well, but they definitely need depth at center. So I could see us maybe taking on Evan Fournier's back contract and maybe getting that first round pick back. Now, are they willing to do that? That's a whole nother conversation, but I think that's definitely something you bring up so we can stop dealing with this whole protection mess and just get the pick back. They've been trying to offload Evan Fournier for a couple of years now. And like I said, if you look at this contract, 18 man, yeah. So we'll probably have to throw another player in there. Johnny Davis, hey, do you like Broadway? It could be a throw in right there. But I think that would be a realistic move, man, because they're not giving up too much. Evan Fournier, like I said, they've been trying to find tickets for him the last couple of years. So they should definitely want to get his contract off the books. Houston. I could see us getting Oladipo. He's an inspiring deal. Obviously, he's not gonna play. He's probably a buyout candidate. Maybe Oladipo. He's making 9. Guys making 3. Young talent. Draft picks. I don't know if you got to pull it up, man. As far as the Rockets draft pick situation going on, man. But I'm pretty sure they have a better situation than the other teams we mentioned, and so I could definitely look at maybe a pick and Oladipo. That could be. But then again, man, Gaff, I don't see a first round pick. If Kuzma's going to get one, and we might get one for Tyus, and it's nothing against Gaff. Gaff's my dude, man. But I don't see teams willing to give up a first round pick. The only reason I brought up the first round pick for the Knicks because it's kind of our pick. It's just a protected pick. So, and they have picks for that draft. So it wouldn't be that bad of a move for them to give it up. But that would be what I'm aiming for, man. Getting Oladipo's contract off the books for Houston. But looking at Houston's who are they willing to give up? Are they willing to give up Cam Whitmore, which is obviously my pick, but he's a young guy. They may not be willing to do that. Terry Eason. So that's what I would do, man. And inspiring and maybe a young player. They definitely have to be aggressive and be very transparent people. And definitely aim for the fences. But I think the Houston Rockets and the Knicks are my go-to as far as the most realistic partners for a deal for Gafford.
Let me see. Is Victor Oladipo on the Rockets?
Yeah,
he is
9.5, and he's his last year deal.
Okay, yeah, he is on the Rockets. He's just barely playing, so I don't even know if he's injured or not.
He's pretty much a cheerleader at this point.
Yeah, so I like Jayshawn Tate. I know they've been interested. There are reports about the Wizards being interested in Jayshawn Tate for a couple of years. I do know they were interested in Grant Williams. He's on the Mavericks. That's not, I'm not, once again, it's not like I'm just cheering for them to trade for Grant Williams, but that's just a throw-in name that they could possibly trade. when we keep seeing the Mavericks come up every time for Kuzma and Gafford. Maybe there could be like a Gafford for Grant Williams on a pick or something like that. Maybe there's something like that could happen. But the Rockets, I think Jason Tate is realistic. Of course, they're not going to let go of any of their young guys as far as like Cam Whitmore, he's untouchable. Yeah. I would assume Tari Eason's untouchable. Amen Thompson's untouchable. Guys like that on the roster are probably untouchable. Other than that, I don't really see anything that I really would look for. But I could see I see that they want Gafford as a backup because they don't really have a backup for Sengun.
Yeah.
Jeff Green is their backup 5, Jock Landale, and then Boban is their other backer. He's like a fourth string big man. And then of course they got Jabari Smith as well, who certainly is untouchable. So they got a lot of untouchable guys on our roster. But so the Rockets is an interesting. I think that's kind of just a throw-in team. The Knicks do make sense, like you said.
Yeah.
With Hartenstein, he's been starting. He's been playing well. Mitchell Robinson has been out. They don't really have a backup big other than Hartenstein or another big, really. So I can see that. The first-round pick, getting that back with Fournier, that would be wishful thinking. But I highly doubt the Knicks give that pick back. That pick has been traded so much to the point where it's like I feel like OKC had a part in that pick too that we gave up that they may even have. I got to look it up, but I think the Knicks do have it right now. But Gafford's getting some interest. I don't think we get a first round pick for Gaff. I think we get a second or a couple of seconds.
Yeah. I
think he has, Monte Morris was traded for 1 second round pick. I think he has more value than Monte. So I think you get a couple seconds or a second and a player. I can certainly see that for Gafford. And Gafford's on a good deal, a pretty good deal too, like $13 million. I could see a couple of teams that certainly have legitimate interest in him. Mavericks once again. So I don't see a first round pick, but I do see a second round or 2 seconds certainly for Gafford.
Yeah, same here, man. And here's the thing, we said it before, we kind of overvalue our guys. I think the biggest key is getting their contracts off the books. I don't think I'll be totally honest with you guys, man. I don't think we're gonna get the return we expect we're gonna get. I mean, I think we're gonna be a little disappointed like we did with KP and Bradley Beal. I mean, we're not gonna get. I mean, obviously they're aiming high and they're swinging for the fences, but we're not gonna be happy with that outcome because, I mean, it's just what it is. I think the biggest thing is finally getting these veterans off the books and finally starting to rebuild. And I think the victory at the deadline is peace of mind. And I'm sure a lot of people ain't trying to hear all that, but I mean, it is because you finally can rebuild. You finally can evaluate these young guys and then add from there. And that's going to be the biggest victory about the trade deadline because you're not going to get a lot. I mean, like I said, realistically, the only guy that you're going to get a first, and we're about to talk about Tyus Jones in a minute, man. But Kuz is our best chance to get a first. Like you said, Gaff. I'm with you a couple seconds, but we're going to have every second round pick from now to 2030, man. I'll tell you right now, we have a lot of second rounders. So, I mean, to me, that's the victory. Is peace of mind, getting these contracts off the books. But I don't think we're really going to be happy with the return, to be totally honest with you. And with Kuzma, there's not a lot of they don't really have to trade him. But if he's tripping right now, like, why would, you know what I mean? Like, he may not come back to DC after the offseason, man. Like, he's already upset now that his name's involved with, and that's speculation. All we know is maybe something going on in his personal life. We don't know, as far as his production going down. But, with him in his exchanges on social media, I don't think, I don't know. It's a weird situation because I don't 100% think that he's totally in the dark as far as, the situation with his contract. Like, there were reports coming out of the organization of saying that the biggest thing was they were very transparent saying expect to be traded sometime in the middle of your contract. So, and he's got value. I mean, you'd be a fool not to move him. I mean, he's got value. He's not a long-term piece. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. I don't think we're gonna be happy regardless what the return is. I think we're gonna get some expiring deals. We may get more second rounders than first rounders. And we're just going to have to accept it and move on and look to the future, man, because I don't think we're going to get anywhere close to what the asking price is going to be, especially for Kuzma. It's more than first round pick. Lord, no, it ain't happening. So,
no, I'm with you on that too. I think the best value that we're going to get back probably is for Kyle Kuzma, Gafford, a couple seconds. Tyus, if a team really, really gets desperate at first, but we're about to talk about Tyus.
Yes, sir. So before we move on to Tyus Jones, tonight's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. So you're wondering, what is PrizePicks? Well, PrizePicks is actually the largest fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 players and their stat projections to watch the winnings roll in. So with basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift at 10.5 combo or 3 points made in receptions. I'm taking that deal. Want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in PrizePicks community each and every week. And PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For example, in football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So all you guys got to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use promo code LockedOnNBA for first deposit match up to $100. And again, all you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use promo code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to 1 C note. All right. And we can slide into.
Yes, sir. We're gonna talk about Tyus here. So this one's from Evan Sittery and Matt Moore again. He said the Sixers are interested in acquiring Tyus Jones. The Heat have been a team that's been brought up as well. A couple of playoff teams, have been reportedly interested for Tyus Jones. What are your thoughts on Tyus Jones' name being brought up in trade reports? And what do you think are some realistic scenarios that we could get back for Tyus Jones?
Oh, good question, man. I think Tyus Jones is very intriguing because I think that his value can maybe go up there around Kuz, because the fact that he is coming to DC, being a long-term, being called the best backup point guard in the league, he's shown that he can start. Now, is he going to be a guy who's going to be a long-term option for most teams in the NBA going forward at point guard? Who knows? But for most rebuilding teams, no. But contention, yeah. He's a guy who can come in and he can start. He's a floor general. His assist numbers have been immaculate. He's shown that he can run an offense with shooters on the outside. Now, we don't have all the personnel to really have, the perfect situation for him, but he has value. Looking at Miami, which he fits the mold as far as Miami culture, man. He's a guy who comes in, he works hard, good hit on the shoulders. He's a vet who plays the right way. He shows leadership. He definitely fits the mold. Look at it, he makes $14 million a year on an expiring deal. So realistically, what are we looking at as far as matching money? It's hard on Miami, man, because again, who are they willing to? I mean, they could give us Kyle Lowry and a pick, because I know they've been trying to offload him, but Kyle Lowry makes $29 million. So we will obviously have to put some more players in the deal or make it a 3-team trade to make that work. Are they willing to give up Tyler Hero? I mean, he's young, 4 years, making $27 million. We'll see. For Tyus, I see them hesitant to move on from him. That's tough, man. I mean, you're probably going to have to piece together a couple players and an exception to make it work. But I think that Miami would not be a bad destination, man. And Philadelphia is a team that's been mentioned a lot lately. Now, looking at them, it's kind of the same boat. Most of their roster is on expiring deals. Marcus Morris Sr., $17 million, so the money would work. I could see that being a type of deal to give us an expiring and a pick or a young player. But again, young player, the only one I can realistically see in them give up would be Jaden Springer, $2.2 million. So maybe you attach him to Marcus Morris Sr. But you got Nick Batum, 11, Robert Covington, maybe an option, 11 million. So I think both of them are very realistic options for Tyus Jones to be moved at some point. I think who knows, man. I mean, he carries some importance. I mean, in the case of Miami, he could come in and be the starter. I mean, because Kyle Lowry has not had the best year. I know they're really trying to get him off the books. So I think there's capabilities. But to me, Philadelphia and Miami are the most realistic. And again, looking at Philadelphia, I think you're probably going to look at a young player like Jaden Springer and an aspiring deal. So which one am I leaning towards? With Tyus Jones, I would roll with the 76ers. I would take on an expiring deal. They're off the books at the end of the year, and take on. I think Jaden Springer is intriguing young talent. So that's where I'm swaying to.
Yeah, and then a wild card team that Shams Charania brought up today. He said the Lakers are doing their due diligence on DeJounte Murray, Bruce Brown, Tyus Jones, Terry Rozier. Those are the names to keep an eye on. They are trying to move on from D'Angelo Russell. Last night after the Lakers game, D'Angelo Russell was seen crying, and Rui Hachimura was seen crying as well. We know a lot of Wizards fans love themselves some Rui, so it would be funny as crap if Rui was traded back to the Wizards for Tyus Jones. Let's say we get a couple of second-round picks and Rui for Tyus Jones and Johnny Davis or something like that. But I know D'Angelo Russell's on the move. I wouldn't be surprised. I got to look at D'Angelo Russell's contract. I wouldn't be surprised if D'Angelo somehow ended up on the Wizards, just on a 3-team trade or something like that. D'Angelo Russell is making. He has a 2-year, $36 million contract, so he's making about $18 million per year, which is actually not that bad, honestly.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Tyus, looking at his contract, is a 2-year, $29 million deal, so that's about $13 million per year. So they're saying about 14, about $13 million per year. I'm sorry, not 30, 14, like 14 and a half per year. I'm sorry, my math is awful, but I could see something like that happening. The Lakers they're desperate. They're trying to make some moves, so they're throwing the name in the hat for any point guard that's available. They're trying to trade for him, any guard. You talked about the Heat. He fits their culture. The Heat don't have. I mean, Jovic is somebody. Nikola Jovic. I think I want to say they. I'm not sure if they said he was untouchable or there was a report that came out. I can't remember what the report was. But Jovic, and that's a young talent on the Miami Heat. The Sixers, I do like Paul Reed. Their backup big. Mo Bamba's a backup big. So if you trade Gafford, I don't want to just leave Bagley out there to dry. I know they signed Trey Jameson on the 10-day contract, but he's just coming from the G League, so you can't really expect much from him already. So I don't want Bagley to be the only big again because we finally just got two bigs that can actually rebound the ball. So we can actually be a little competitive, even though we're trying to rebuild. But I will watch out for the Lakers, man. I would see what they do as far as trying to get Tyus. I would definitely keep an eye on that team, and then the Sixers. I think Tyus would be a good backup for the Sixers. But like I said, I would definitely want them to get Paul Reed. Yeah. Mo Bamba's a guy to take a look at, and other than that, they don't have a lot of young guys. Young talent. I do like Terquavion Smith, but he hasn't got a lot of playing time.
Yeah.
And KJ Martin is on our roster too. Kenyon Martin's son. He's really athletic. So there's a couple guys. Marcus Morris, they may take him just to get some draft picks and take on a bad contract. But personally, I don't want to see Marcus Morris on this roster.
Yeah, I mean, it's an expiring deal, so it's not.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
it's off the books at the end of the year, so it's not too much of a commitment. Jovic, that's my guy. I mean, I would love Jovic in a deal, man. I would trade him straight up for Jovic because I think Jovic at his size, he's an intriguing prospect that would fit what we're trying to do in DC, man. Oh, again to the Lakers. Good guy. I mean, we do this every year. That everybody's scrambling to make the Lakers better because you know what I mean. No, D'Angelo Russell,
LeBron better.
I know LeBron better. The NBA scrambling to get him that next championship, man. But I mean, no, I wouldn't do it because D'Angelo Russell. I mean, how many stops has he had? I mean, he started out Lakers, then it was he was Brooklyn, Golden State, Minnesota. He's the same player. He's going to be a very ball dominant guy, and I don't think it's going to destroy us trying to develop these guys. I don't, and nothing against D'Angelo Russell. Just he's a very ball dominant guy. We need a guy who's going to be in, especially at point guard. We need a guy who's going to be able to utilize and develop these guys and run a system. And that's the best fit for Denny or Bilal going forward, man, because they need. So I'm not doing the Lakers, man. I don't. And that's pretty much the only guy I would want. I don't, and it's funny to cry. I'm like, what? I think that's hilarious to cry at the end of the game. Really? But yeah, I mean, but then again, E, to your point, man, it's not a bad contract. And it's not a long-term commitment because it's kind of like Bagley. He's gone after next year. So you're not putting a dent too much in the timeline. So I wouldn't be upset. It's just, to me, is what is the best fit for the guys we're trying to develop. And at point guard because I know there's reports that, we can kind of throw this in with Tyus Jones. There's a report that, they want to move him for assets, but they also, there's people in the organization that want to resign him. to be that point guard for the rebuild, and which I do not think that's a bad idea, man. You don't see a lot in basketball. You see in baseball a lot where you'll trade an asset and then you'll re-sign them. I know the Nats talked about it, doing it with Bryce Harper, and they didn't do it. But for them to get assets and then maybe bring them back, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. So definitely, you guys comment below, let us know how you would feel about that. But because he's that perfect floor general that will get the most out of the guys around him, and I think that Bilal and Denny and Kispert will get better with that type of point guard. He's been good for them, man, in my opinion. You know, obviously with Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma being a lot more ball dominant ISO guys, man, is really putting a dent in that. But I think that he's a perfect point guard for a rebuilding team, in my opinion. So, you know, kind of in closing, man, we have options. You know, we have options, and I do have trust that his front office is going to make the right moves, man. But I just want to warn everybody, man. I don't think the return is going to be the most glamorous. Now, definitely aim high. You know, like I said, as far as the Heat, Jovic, man, is the guy I'm looking at. He is 6'10", and he can move, he can shoot, he can defend. Jaden Springer, I mentioned on the 76ers, I think he's intriguing, but I don't think really the biggest victory, man, is getting those contracts over the books. And I think I said the same thing with Bradley Beal right before he got traded, which is you're not going to be happy about what you get in return, but the biggest peace of mind is getting those contracts off the books. And finally, you can start rebuilding this team and really give these young guys a look in the second half, because that's what's most intriguing to me is I'm intrigued to see Bilal and Denny in the same lineup, and maybe even Kiss, and you see how they mix and match. But I want to see what these young guys can do. That's what I'm looking. So you need to go ahead and get this deadline moving and let's get this thing going, because I'm ready for the youth movement, man, in my opinion. So
100%. Yeah, a lot of teams are coveting Tyus Jones. A lot of playoff teams. We talked about that a lot. I was reading another thing too. Yeah, Bobby Mark said Tyus Jones has a tremendous amount of value to playoff teams out there. We can go through the list, whether it be Miami, Minnesota, whether it be Phoenix. He has a lot of value out there. Probably the best available point guard out there. So I think Tyus Jones, surprisingly, and you look at something, he's having a career year. He's having a great season. And, the assist to turnover ratio, he's scoring, he's getting a bunch of assists. Wizards PR stats, they put out players that average 6+ assists per game on 50% field goal percentage and 40% from the three-point line. Since December 15th, it's Tyus Jones, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, and Domantas Sabonis. So he's in a great group of guys right there. Tyus, he has had a great season, man. He had a rough start, but after the rough start, to get his feet, under him with the Wizards, he's played some really, really good basketball. So, man, I actually wouldn't be surprised if we got a first for him just because of all the teams bidding for him.
Yeah.
A lot of playoff teams bidding for him. I actually think we may surprisingly get more than what we thought for Tyus Jones for sure. Yeah. And then lastly, we'll talk about I'll just bring up the small report about PJ Tucker. They may trade for him and buy him out. That's from Jake Fisher. I don't know how true that is. They said the Suns and Bucks are potential landing spots for PJ Tucker, and then the Wizards being mentioned as a possible landing spot. Sources say Washington will offer the opportunity for a buyout for PJ Tucker. So that's something small that may happen that, we'll see what happens with that. But Tyus Jones, I think we can get some for him. The Lakers are trying to get him. The Sixers are trying to get him. The Heat are trying to get him. A lot of playoff teams are really, really trying to get Tyus. And I think Tyus has certainly helped out his value for sure. And like you said, bringing him back, I wouldn't mind bringing him back because he's played really, really well.
Yeah.
I actually wish we would have had him last year. I think he would have been a better fit than Monte. I think him and Bradley Beal would have been a better fit. Him and Porzingis and Kuz, I think he would have got those guys in better spots. I think he would have been a much better fit to Bradley Beal. And I know defensively he's not the best point guard, but as far as getting guys in spots and making things easier for Brad, and Brad wouldn't have to dribble the ball all the time and whatnot. He shouldn't have been anyway last year, but I think Tyus definitely would have helped out with that down in the clutch parts of the game for sure. And I think Tyus would help a lot of teams. Him and Embiid, I think he would help them out a lot. Maxey, he would help the Heat out a lot with Hero and Jimmy Butler. So Tyus, man, I think you can get a late first for him. At first I didn't think you'd get a first for him, but now I actually think you might be able to get a first for Tyus.
I totally agree. I said that, if they're crafty and they find the right fit, man, they could definitely probably get a first round pick. But the thing is about bringing him back is that, I think they should definitely consider that. Get what you can for him right now, flip him to a contending team, and then bring him back. Absolutely, because he's not going to command a lot of money, and it's not to say that he can't groom the point guard of the future, because look, I mean, I know people are low in his draft, man, but there are point guards in his draft. Now, Isaiah Collar has been struggling, man, at USC, but Dillingham from University of Kentucky, man. I mean, you know, you could bring back Tyus Jones. He can groom that next point guard instead of just throwing him right into the fire. You know, you got a guy who can groom the next point guard, and he's the perfect floor general to really help Bilal and Denny evolve their offensive game, man. Finding the right spots for them, man. Because, you know, I mean, like I said, you know, the biggest critiques about Bilal that he mentioned personally was he wants to work on catch and shoot faster. He wants to be able to catch and shoot a lot faster. And, you know, having a point guard who's going to find the right spots for him is going to help mediate that, man. And Denny, you know, he still needs work offensively, especially with that three-point shot. So I think that having a point guard like Tyus, you know, through the rebuild, I think it'd be a win-win for this organization. But the biggest key, again, in closing, is that we have options, and we have not always had options. So it is definitely light at the end of the tunnel for us, man. So, you know, the deadline's going to be here faster than you. I mean, shoot, was it February 8th? It's getting here, man. So, and then it's the youth movement officially in DC. So,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, thank you guys for listening. Making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you guys get podcasts. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell. Tomorrow we will be getting the comments for sure, and previewing the next game for the Wizards. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.
You are